You're listening to
The Real King
with Joe and Heidi King. Ooh la la. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so today's episode is a special look at relationships, romance, and how we are continuing to work on growth, change, and love with one another.
So, I am beardless for the first time in over a year.
How does it feel?
Naked.
Freeing.
Naked
Oh man,
and free.
When it gets to a certain length, it gets difficult to eat without pulling hair out of the corners of your mouth.
Gross.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so it's like
For a woman, or for me, there's something
masculine.
about a man with a
Cavemanish.
beard. I initially thought I was not going to like a bearded man, but then he grew one, and I was like, all right, I can get on board with that. There is like a masculinity with it.
It's a caveman thing.
I enjoy it. Yeah. And then he shaved it off, and I'm like, whoa, whoa.
Baby face. Right? Carlos is currently clean shaven as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They do go
I'm not
back.
clean shaven. I have like the whole Colonel Sanders thing going on.
They do go back to more of a baby type look versus like the real ruggedy man.
I do love me some Val Kilmer as Doc Hollywood in Tombstone, and kind of
You're
have
rocking.
that going on a little bit. Not
You need
quite.
some wax for your...
Oh yeah, it's in there. It just doesn't work.
You have wax in there?
Yeah.
What kind of wax?
I don't know, wax.
Like
A
my
candle.
coconut oil?
No,
That's
you.
What do you do for Valentine's Day when you've been married for 18 years?
18 years.
I'm not the guy that does the whole like, this is just a corporate holiday to suck money out of people for flowers and stuff.
Yes, you are.
No, not terribly. Like, to a little bit I am, but not. I don't know. There's people that get way over the top. Like, I'm never gonna put up a Christmas tree. That's pagan and all that stuff. I don't do that. But I don't know. I was just watching something. I can't remember what it was, but they were talking about how what they noticed was the people that are always posting about their relationship or every time they're on a vacation or whatever they're doing, those are the people that, like, it seems like their relationships don't last. Like, they're always trying to reaffirm like that they're doing okay, and then when you get alone with those people, they're not doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We're together all the time.
All the time.
And like, I can't sleep without her in the same room.
Oh, really?
It's bad.
No.
I can't sleep without him in the same room either.
I don't
gosh.
like, I'm more, it's a bigger, I don't know. There's a better chance that I'm going to try and be cheeky and tease my wife or pick at her or poke her or be the mean kid on the bus that, I don't know, I'm not pulling her hair, but, you know, to get her attention in public than to, you know, I'm not like the big public display of affection making out in like the same side of the booth type of person.
Yeah.
We were the
You know?
same side of the booth when we first were dating.
Oh, yeah, and it was disgusting.
Oh, that was all you though.
It was so gross.
It gave me a neck cramp. You always got to sit on the same side, and my head's always turned that way. And all of a sudden, like, you're driving home with a stiff neck. You got to turn the heat on in the car or something.
You're already trying not to fart.
yeah, you're spending your all your energy on trying to impress somebody that clearly probably has to fart too. Mm-hmm. So you're both like just full of pinned up flatulence. And trying to like keep it
We
tight.
just ate and your stomach goes bloop, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm hungry. Sorry, my stomach's growling.
Yeah, you need to get something to eat.
Gosh.
God, I can hear your stomach way over here. It's like, oh man, God, that's the last thing you want to do is be in a newly started relationship and have to use their restroom, you know?
For me, you could have stopped at newly started relationship.
Yeah.
Dating now, it sounds like an actual nightmare.
Yeah, I believe that. I have friends that are kind of in the pool and every time they tell me something,
dating pool?
Yeah, and now it's different. Everything's online.
So
It's different. I heard a horror story from one guy that apparently, it was somebody mutual between us that was telling me, because I was like, oh yeah, I seen so and so, and he's like, yeah, like he's been doing like these dating things, and he went on like Christian sites, and he was like, man, it was like these women were very aggressive, like super aggressive.
meaning
They were
wanted to, like, they're ready to be wifed up.
like they wanted to hook up, like they wanted to like get in there and try everything out before because they knew what they wanted, and they wanted to know what your account balance on your checking is, and they wanted to have physical relations right off the bat, spend the night. Like, that's just weird to me,
Guys
I
do.
don't
These
know.
ladies around here.
Guys do get the bad rap a lot of the times with trying to be the nasty ones, but
Yeah.
girls, they can get like that.
Oh yeah. What would you say your love language is? I think Joe's is physical touch.
Absolutely.
Mine is
or affirmation.
Yeah, I love
Words
words
of
of affirmation. I do but I have ADD, so for me to like have that treat dangled in front of me, like you're doing good, or man, you really turn me on, like that's great for me because it gets all the
Yes,
senses
go
involved.
there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So like those types of things for me, like that gets my wheels turning.
Yeah.
Um,
Revs your engine.
yeah.
Gets your motor
Don't-
running.
I don't even know.
Your boater.
Yeah, your boater motor going.
Yeah, your boater mountain.
All I picture is like a guy
Your
in the
motor
vest.
son of a
The
gun.
guy in the tan vest with the little fly fishing hooks stuck in him all over with the fishing hat.
What about
my
Bob?
boater motor going?
Yeah. What?
Good old Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
What about Bob?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sailing. Faye, this chicken's delicious. Scrumptious. He said scrumptious. Dr. Leo Marvin.
He's got his fish.
That was a
around his
good
neck.
movie. Bill Murray outdid himself with that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel he could go anywhere after that, really.
He'd have to take baby steps to get
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heidi, what's yours? It's not physical touch.
No. What are the options?
Oh, yours are definitely words of affirmation.
Acts of service.
Acts of service.
Yeah. Mine would
Any
be
kind of flattery.
absolutely compliment me.
So words of affirmation, acts of service.
Yeah.
And the acts of service.
Yeah.
She does love chivalry, like
Yeah.
opening doors for her and stuff,
Right.
which is weird.
Carlos,
Weird.
what's yours? Your love language.
Like, what makes you feel good when Christina,
Is it
Like,
like
how can somebody show love to you
is it like
that's like something you would receive well?
acts of service, compliments, or
Or a new gun?
Compliments, food.
food,
yeah.
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 Food is huge.
I think for guys, a lot of it is food.
gifts?
I've never met your mother other than in like a Zoom or a Skype, and just hearing about like the things that she cooks when you go home. I love your mother. like she could cook for me. Like I'll
Yeah.
totally, I'll be a participant there. What's your love language?
Distance.
That's crazy.
Like, no one talked to me ever.
There's so many people like that though. They're just like comfortable taking a nap in
Yeah.
the same room as the whole family, and then popping
Yeah.
in and out of conversation when they see fit.
I was just talking about that today, where when you are so comfortable with somebody, it gets to a point where you don't even need to speak. You can just be in the same room and you're cool. You're
Yeah.
good with it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's me all the time.
I have
Yeah.
people where I may not talk to them in 10 years, and then we pop into conversation like we were together last week. Those are my favorite friendships because I
yeah.
I
They're low
tend to
maintenance.
and I tend to give 100% to whoever's in front of me at the moment. Mm-hmm. Like if you try and set up an appointment with me, it is so hard for me. Other than obviously the business, we do that all the time. But like if it's like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Like you need to set aside an hour for me. I will struggle to figure out
If
how
someone-
to find time.
Listen to me. If someone says that to me and they don't give me all of the background and context and talk
Yeah,
to me
what do you
right
want
in
to
that
talk to me
minute,
about?
I will go into outer space.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. That's
Yeah.
terroristic behavior.
Or when you get the text message that just
Call me.
Call me. Why?
First of all, I rebuke that.
Why?
Absolutely not. Don't ever do
What
that.
spirit are you of?
Yeah. Real quick, I think that my love language is probably acts of service.
Yeah.
That's what I get when I'm giving. I don't know. It's probably gifts or acts of service too.
Yeah.
In the spirit of Valentine's Day, I prepared questions that I'm going to ask you two about one another, and you're going to answer and see if you can guess correctly.
What you said about somebody saying, call me or I need to talk to you, like this is
it?
that. Yeah,
Good.
because the last time like a church asked me to speak at a Valentine's Day function, I panicked for like a week because I am terrible at like lovey-dovey stuff.
You are, but you're not.
I don't know.
All right, you ready? Heidi,
Yeah.
what is one thing that Joe can't live without?
I would probably say the Bible.
Yep.
He wouldn't do well without
Like
it.
I even sat down and started reading scriptures here. If I get uncomfortable with anything, I'll go read the Bible.
What's one thing that Heidi can't live without?
Ooh, that's hard because like your mind wants to go to like favorite foods. It wants to go to
your mind does go to food.
Favorite movies or whatever. Heidi needs like a healthy diet of worship.
Oh yeah, worship
Otherwise,
is a
she
good one
feels
for her.
like she's like gone backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like if she misses worship throughout the week, you can tell she feels backslidden.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say worship is huge for her.
What
Do you want to know why? Can I just
Yes.
rabbit trail on that?
you can rail all you want.
I read the Bible daily and I get into scripture daily. I use that as teaching. That's teaching to me. I use it as what can I learn? What can I consume? What can I digest? What can I change? What can I repent of? What can I tweak? When I'm reading the word, a lot of the times that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Some other people read it different ways, but for me, that's personally how I read it. I always read it as I want to be the best. I want to be my best. I want to be what you intended me to be. I want to have purpose. I want to be in good standing with you. I want to make you proud. And so when I'm reading, I'm like, okay, I need to change things. I need to fix things. I need to do this correction.
See, when I get in certain books like Titus or something like that, my mind tends to work like that. But most of the time, if I'm reading Psalms, Proverbs, something like that, or a lot of what, Corinthians or Timothy or whatever, like a lot of the writings from Paul, I'm always waiting for God to speak to me. Like, and then all of a sudden, that's why my mind works different with the word, is because like something will highlight and then I'll go,
Yeah,
I'll get stuck on that.
that happens to me too.
Yeah.
But it's all with mine. It's mostly like teaching correction moments for me personally. But so when I do Bible time, that's like me going to school. Like my Bible time is like school time. And the worship though, that for me, which is why he said like I feel backslidden if I go through a whole week without worship, is because the worship is the part where like I can just connect to like his heart. And there's like not really teaching or correction there. It's just like me loving him and him loving me. It's like it's like the romance part of the relationship.
What movie title best describes your marriage?
Are you asking her?
The both of you.
These are hard.
If you say Dumb and Dumber, you're going to owe me a steak
so funny.
dinner. You're going to owe me a chili pepper burger. Like, if you ever see Dumb and Dumber, the guy eats the burger and
Yeah.
he's got indigestion. He's like,
He has an ulcer.
yeah, it's also, yeah. Get the pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the question?
What
movie
movie
title?
title best describes your marriage?
Under the Tuscan Sun. My friend's mom made me watch that with
Yeah.
her at the theater. It was great.
What's
out.
the one with Julia Roberts?
My best friend's wedding.
No, the live. Live, love,
Oh, Eat, Pray, Love.
eat, pray, love.
Do you know
I
what that's
don't think I've
about?
ever even seen
I've
that.
never seen it, but that's like a great title. I feel like I should get like A+
Isn't that
for
about
that
a
answer.
prostitute? No, that's
No,
I've honestly
that's
never-
Pretty Woman.
I've never seen it, but it's probably weird because I feel like she goes on like a journey. Whenever movies go on like a journey, it always leads to something.
Yeah.
There's probably
weird.
going to be somebody that really knows intricately what that movie's about.
do.
And
Yeah.
it's probably not got anything to do with
It's
eating,
fine.
I could
praying,
be
or
absolutely
loving.
wrong.
It's fine. It's not at all Christ based, but it was about the title. Is all. And Eat, Pray, Love is actually a perfect answer. Good job.
Yeah, I know. A+. I win that round.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Goonies.
Oh,
You think
Goonies
so?
is so describes our relationship because every day is some weird half-handed adventure that we don't really know what's going to go on, but we're going to save the world and our home and our family through it. And like
Captain America.
it's amazing what we've made it through in our lives to this point. So I would say like some goofy, funny movie like that. And there was still like love and whatever, you know. There was the kiss underneath the
Waterfall.
wishing well, you know.
Yeah.
Wasn't it a
It was
waterfall? Weren't
wishing
they
well.
inside the thing?
It was like a spring-fed wishing well.
But weren't they inside the?
Yeah, there was like water dripping down. Yeah, I guess waterfall.
Carlos, what movie title best describes our marriage?
It's a hard. These are hard.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they
So
are.
hard.
Because there's so many movies.
The Holiday?
Aw, that's a good answer. Good answer, Carlos.
What is it? It's like Family Feud. Good answer.
Yeah, you guys like to travel and stuff, so.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what my answer would be.
God, there was so many like romantic movies with that one British guy.
Hugh Grant, Notting Hill.
Yeah,
Is
all those
probably the
ones.
one you're thinking of.
No, what's the one where like
Bridget
end up-
Jones' Diary.
no, they end up at like the piano recital or whatever, the school thing at the end.
Love Actually.
Yeah, Love Actually. Yeah.
Um,
I don't like a lot of those though, because it's usually like somebody disrupting another relationship to have a relationship. Mm-hmm. But like I feel like I knew, like I was gonna either marry Heidi or be single the rest of my life when I met her, in some weird way. I'm gonna stick with Goonies.
you made
Yeah.
me
What
lose
what
it.
was your if you had to pick a movie title for you and Carlos? What would that be?
I'm thinking.
Coming to America.
Coming to America.
That's genius.
You gotta have your mic back
You're
on if you're
so
gonna do
smart.
that.
Yeah, Coming to America.
man.
That's a good one. Son-in-law.
Son-in-law. Oh Lord. Little Polly Shore.
Yeah. Steven Tyler PJs.
Yeah.
Um,
That guy's doing
hey,
like a
buddy.
comedy tour now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who hogs the bed covers?
Joe.
Yeah, I'm a cocoon guy.
He is an
is
absolute
Carlos.
cocoon.
Yeah, I'll wrap my
Drives me
feet, my
insane.
face, my head.
Really?
everything. Yep.
Do you know that when he gets mad at me, he will? So I have to have physical touch when I'm sleeping. All night long, I have to have some part.
I maintain my answer of distance, but go on.
Some part of me has to be touching him, whether it's my foot touching his foot or my leg touching his leg or my hand touching his shoulder. All night long, I have to have some part of touching.
Her toenails scraping the back of my leg.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Lies.
When we were younger, we would have occasional sleepovers, and she was like that always.
Yeah.
And she would flop her hot leg over you in the middle
Yeah.
of the night and then start laughing in her sleep.
Weird.
And I was like, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. I started sleeping in the guest bedroom.
You did.
With the windows
With
open.
the windows open, yeah.
Yeah.
But so something always has to be touching. That's how I get rest. In fact, I say that he's kind of my security blanket because when I get tired at night, he'll be like, "You want to rub my back?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I do." Because the
And
second
she goes like this.
the
and
second my
falls
hand
asleep.
hits him, I am like out. Like I am sleeping, like full sound sleeping. Anyways, when we get in little,
Tiffs.
When the Bible says don't go to sleep on your wrath or your anger, and we pull the silent treatment. Oh man, if you ever want to learn who you are and about the silent treatment, find a good Dan Muller to listen to
Yeah.
because he totally
Who is that?
He was Todd White's
White's
mentor.
mentor?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and he's a phenomenal teacher. He
He
does
really
a lot
is.
with he did a lot with Power and Love, and he's still doing stuff with Tom Rotullo with the City Quake, where they do a lot of street ministry stuff. But the guy has got 27, 30 years, something like that, of just living a gospel that most people think is unattainable. Like, he literally has had ministers put their kids up to asking his kids in church, is your dad really like that at home? So but this guy's he's sound in his doctrine, but he literally can just, man, God can use him to just break strongholds. I was just listening to him. He was talking about the silent treatment. How did Christ dying for you on the cross and bringing you into reconciliation from all the sin in your life, how does that work to entitle you to give a person the silent treatment?
I'm physically incapable of doing that.
How can you
I got something to say.
justify those actions when everything about what Christ did for you is forgiveness?
Right.
So sometimes, not
mean,
recently.
I'm going to make sure that you now favorite that video so that anytime in the upcoming future I can play that for you.
It's been a while, though.
It has. But when we would get in arguments, because my love language is touching some part of him while we're sleeping, he literally will get into bed and he will go on top of the sheets.
Note,
So-
even when there's some sort of discord in our life or in our marriage, we still
Yeah.
we don't threaten divorce.
No.
And we don't sleep in opposite rooms.
No.
We still sleep in
We
the
still
same
sleep
bed.
in the same bed. But he makes
But-
it a living nightmare.
I am one who will find a loophole.
Always finding the loophole.
So she'll get in under the sheet, all comfortable, and then I'll slip in between the top sheet
And the
the
comforter.
comforters or the quilts.
So I'm literally unable to physically touch him because there's a sheet that's blocking us.
Yeah, with a 300-pound guy.
Because I'm
pinning
under it
to
and
the
he's on top of it.
mattress.
It's the worst nights ever. I don't
Yeah.
get any sleep. I was like,
It
this
never
is
lasts the whole night.
horrible.
I always end up repenting.
Have you ever just gotten up and gotten it under just the blanket too?
No, because she's stubborn. She doesn't give
You
in that
both
easy.
are.
She wants to win.
Yeah.
You both are so stubborn.
But I
Yeah.
usually end up repenting at some point, and then I get cold or something, and I don't like not being able to wrap my
I
feet
wake up in the morning. I don't have any blankets on at all.
Really?
None.
Yeah, that's crazy sauce.
And Carlos is
Let me ask-
somewhere under a pile of them.
Let me ask,
She puts a fan on my side of the bed,
Yeah.
and then I get the brunt force of this. It's literally I think they reverse engineered the jet engine out of a F-16 and put it in this stupid fan from Sam's Club, and it
Is
literally
it a box fan?
No,
No,
it's
it's a
like
tower
this
fan?
dumb tower fan. I thought it'd be really weak because most of those are. Well, not this one. This one blows the ukuleles and guitars off the wall and
It's-
shakes the TV.
it's the most glorious sound while you're sleeping.
Oh, no.
It's like I'm
We're
basking
white
in an
noise-
ocean.
We're white noise sleepers, but we have it completely pitch black to the point where if the neighbor down the street leaves their yard light on, it keeps me up at night.
Wow.
Yeah, but nothing else, just the fan.
If I woke up and everybody was gone and I was like, did the rapture happen? I wouldn't know. I didn't hear over the fan. I didn't hear the trumpet sound because the fan is right there. So is Carlos the cover hogger?
That's that's his official title. He will go to bed. I keep the house cold. You guys know that.
Yep.
And because you can always put more clothes on, you can only take so many off. That is
It
my
was
philosophy in life.
With the wind chill, it was 20 below 3 days ago. Mm-hmm. And if your furnace, which is brand new, I know, but if it were to fail, you're already down to 55. It would take no time to freeze your pipes.
Lies. It is set on 61.
Right, but I don't think it keeps up because it always feels like I could almost see my breath.
It's no, you can't.
I was,
Such a drama queen.
I was literally like 2 weeks ago, I was wearing slippers here. And I was like, man, is the little kid from The Sixth Sense going to show up? I'm seeing my breath here.
You're crazy. It's glorious and it's the best place to sleep. Ask your kids.
Man, I tell you what.
I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you what.
So studies show that people that sleep in cold rooms are more
I was
likely
in
to have
mid-sentence.
I'm sorry. They're more likely to have bad dreams.
Oh no.
So make sure
I don't
you pray
even
before
dream.
you go to sleep.
I don't dream. And I lay me down to sleep every single night. Like, no
Now I lay me
joke.
down to sleep. I praise the Lord, my soul.
I
I
literally,
praise the Lord my soul to keep, she says.
Yeah.
I literally have a weird conviction.
I pray the Lord.
I literally get this weird conviction like once every 6 months about kneeling down by my bed before I go to
Oh
sleep.
my
to pray.
gosh, do it.
I know, but it's just like nobody else in the house does it.
Oh, do it.
Pluto would be right there.
Yeah, he would. He would think that was like.
But Carlos, on occasion, most of the time, really, will go to bed in like a hoodie and sweatpants and socks.
Does he pull the hood up and like tie it shut?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And then
I've done that.
and then for Christmas, not last year but the year before, I got him a headband that is it's Bluetooth headphones.
Yeah.
So it looks like one of those headbands for the winter. Mm-hmm. And he listens to a preaching podcast to fall asleep every single night.
Nice.
And
In Spanish or English?
Espanol.
Yeah.
Dante Gabel, right? Dante Gabel. That's who he listens to. And most of the time. And Toby Jr., who he met at the Miami airport, by the way.
That's good.
And
You would not believe some of the stuff that people put themselves to sleep to.
Yeah. And then we have a huge down comforter. And we also have a thinner quilt and then a top sheet. Top sheets are of the Lord, by the way.
Absolutely.
And if you don't use a top sheet, you need to get your life right with the Lord.
I
Do you know,
agree.
I go into a lot of homes and I see quite a few people that sleep with no like sheets on their
No
bed.
sheets on the bed at all.
Yeah, and their pillows
Absolutely
their
stop
pillows
it.
look like they're like
Why?
a million years old. But this is the thing, because I was the youngest of the three boys, like, you know, Andy or Brian, if they wanted my socks or my pillows or whatever, they'd just take them and drool all over them. So I'm like very conscious of my bedding and how clean it is.
He is.
So I buy new bedding.
We
all the
have
time.
like 15 comforters and
Oh,
we
yeah.
have like 20 sets of sheets.
Yep.
So yeah, that was my other question. Do you have a question?
Yeah. Which one of you two is the one to first apologize? Carlos?
You got to say it in the mic, man.
What about us? Who apologizes first?
Um,
God's watching.
right. Right. I don't know, because like it just depends on the situation.
You're such a liar.
No, it depends on the
always
situation.
apologize first. Always.
Only when you want something.
Oh, you're a liar.
She's like, oh, crud, I gotta go to Walmart.
When it's me, I'm all
I gotta
like,
go. I got a whole shopping list. Okay,
Hey.
Lord, I'm sucking it up.
yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry.
Hey, here's the thing. This is how me and Carlos fight a lot of the time, okay? We're like firecrackers, like pop, 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 right?
Yep.
And then we take a beat, and then one of us is like, so are we going to eat or what? What do you want to eat?
Yeah.
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 Or like, one time we were in a fight. Carlos, do you remember this? I looked at him and I go, you are so bad at this. And he's like, I know that.
Thank God.
And then the fight was basically over. Carlos comes from a family where they're silent treatment type people. Like, they'll just write you off for the rest of your life, the rest of their life. We, on the other hand, our family is very much like, here's the thing. With me, there's never a mystery. I will tell you exactly what I'm upset about, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And it's always, if you ask me what I want, I'll tell you.
See, I feel like with him, a lot of the times the thing that he's blowing up about is not the actual issue, which I think makes it difficult to figure out what the actual issue is.
A lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
And then if you say, like, in general, I've had this in many different forums in my life where people are like, you're upset. And I'm like, yep, and this is why. And they're like, seems to me like you're actually upset about some other thing. And I'm like, at work, someone said, like, I don't think I've ever had a review where I don't have at least one person say that she's too direct. That's not a surprise, though. But I had a coworker recently say, if I'm upset, I tell you and it's done. Like, it's done right then.
Yeah.
And we're good.
Yeah.
My issue is when people do the same thing over and over and over, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where I think God's been with some of the stuff we've been doing lately. He's been working on grace with me, because grace obviously is you getting what you don't deserve, you know? So like, I'll watch the same behavior over and over and over and over. And then at the point where it clicks in my head, like, this is going to be a spiritual mountain or stronghold in their life very soon because they have not corrected this behavior, then my approach is wrong, because I'm not in the right spirit. I'm just in like you need to switch this, otherwise you're going to have this, this, and this happen. And then people don't respond to that because they just immediately hear it like you're saying this is happening to you, or like you're putting like word curses on them or something. And then it spirals out of control with that stuff. And then we never get back to that root of like, hey, my heart is really not wanting to see you self-destruct, you know? So like, if you're like, Heidi doesn't communicate the same way as me, obviously, I'll completely expose something, make it completely transparent so that it can be fixed right now.
But the way that we process is different.
Yeah.
Because
and then I'm over
it's
it
one
quick.
and done, right?
Yeah.
And like, everybody forget about it. And so you and I are very similar. And Heidi and Carlos are very similar. They're not that way. And so like, a lot of times I can be very sharp tongued, and like, in my mind, I'm like, let's just get this taken care of right now. Like, let's acknowledge the problem, like, and move on.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times
And to
like,
him,
if I blow up and say something, and then my problem is like, I have really good recall. So I'll recall the last 20 times, the day, the time, what was said, and all of a sudden,
I don't know if that's a gift, by the way.
right? Well, it is in some ways, but not for like that,
Right.
Because then you're holding people in contempt, and,
Yeah.
and we're supposed to forgive others.
Correct.
You know, with us is a lot of times, I could be right, but my approach is wrong.
That's right.
And then I'm not in the right spirit when I do it, because I may have some good there, but there's either anger or discord or dissensions there, which are all spiritual things. So all of a sudden that happens, and it happens in a conflict where there's already a mismanagement of communication. And then it could be hours, days, weeks later when she finds herself in some other situation where she catches herself doing that, then she'll fix it. But it's like, how do we get that clarity to understand, like, this was a very intricately woven, booby trap.
if you want to see the change in the other person, this is like my thing lately. And I've done studying, because obviously I've studied social sciences, right? And number one, you and I have a way of communicating, and people like us have a way of communicating where we unintentionally, but sometimes severely, wound the other person, and it doesn't even register.
Correct.
And we can't even understand why that would, because like, all I'm doing is saying what's true.
Yeah, and a lot of times,
And it's
like,
the approach,
water
right?
off a
Yeah.
duck's back with me. You say
Yeah.
something to me,
But like, it's so for me, I've noticed that more, so I've tried to be less like that.
But I think, like, we've been through different things, Like, I've been through things where I've been very critical of myself my whole life.
Well, that's the thing that people often don't understand, is that someone who is like that, and everything, we can be, first of all, we can lean critical no matter what,
I actually,
right?
Absolutely.
And we can be critical and it doesn't impact us, because no matter what, we are less critical to you than we are of ourselves.
I seen
100% of the time.
I seen a video. He was talking about how she went to the gym, and she got in there that morning, and this woman said to her, like, if you're gonna be here, you better work out.
What does that mean?
Well, she's heavy set, and she's like, if you're gonna be here,
That's a good way to get me to square up.
well,
man.
then she ends up getting ready for another part. She finished that workout doing her weightlifting or whatever, and then she's getting ready to go over and do some aerobics or cardio in the pool, and she's getting ready for that. And then all of a sudden, she ends up with this lady, like, oh, if you, how dare you go get in this pool in this swimming suit? Like, nobody wants to see that. And she's like, oh man.
Wow.
So then she goes and she does her aerobics and she in the pool and she gets out and then she starts getting dressed because she's going to do a run. She does this run. So she's going to do this run on this
Is
track.
she an Iron Woman? Like, I don't understand.
No, she's just a lady trying to get her life in order and her health under control. And all of a sudden, she's talking to a lady and she's in the gym locker room. And then another lady comes up or she gets out on the track and she starts running. And as she's running around this track and she passes like 4 elderly women. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you guys are doing great. And she gets around them and she gets around the next corner. And this woman's like, if you're going to run, you like set a pace where you're not in people's way. And all of a sudden she gets back to the locker room and she's like, man. And she goes,
was this real?
And she's telling this in this video. And she's like, so 3 approaches from this woman that were very critical about what she was doing. And she's trying her hardest to better her life. And she's speaking affirmation over other people in their workouts. And she's really trying to like help people, encourage them. And she says, the sad part is the woman that kept saying things to me was me. So all these times that she had this interaction with this woman.
What a twist
in
and a
her
turn.
head.
I did see that one coming.
In her head, it was her being critical of herself, and she'd pass somebody and she'd like say something great to him or whatever, and then she's running on this track and it just gets worse and worse. And she's like, that was the problem. It's like it was me internally just critiquing, criticizing myself. How dare you get in a swimsuit? Nobody wants to see all that. How dare you, get on this track?
I was ready to call the Better Business Bureau.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the way we are.
Uh-huh. Yes.
So now all of a sudden we're talking about our faults when we have miscommunications with the crazy thing is when you approach somebody that you're in covenant relationship of marriage. Mm-hmm. I don't care how many divorces somebody's had or whatever, but when they get to a point where they have God involved and they get the knowledge of it being a covenant relationship with him at the center, it changes things because now you have the responsibility of not breaking that covenant before the Lord. Mm-hmm. When Jesus was asked about the law of Moses in the bill of divorcement, he said, there never was with God. God allowed Moses to do that because of the way the people were acting. So we have this covenant relationship where now we're understanding like our failed relationships before this one, mm-hmm. like we've been baptized, we're new creation. Those things don't even exist anymore. But this one here, this is like long haul. This is either till the trumpet sounds and we're in eternity, or it's until death does us part. You know what I mean? So when we have that type of, I guess, what would be the right word for that? Like it's a very important relationship to understand, and that person that feels that same way, we know that the next holiday, the next meal or whatever, we're going to have to sit down at the same table. There's going to be forgiveness there. So we tend to hurt the person that we know has to forgive us and loves us most because we know we would never get away with it with anybody pushing carts at Walmart. Mm-hmm. Guy
or
gets in your way in the parking lot,
right.
dings your car. You're like, oh, no, I got insurance. Like...
And your wife dings your car and you're like, what did you do?
I'm selling this car. I hate this car. You damaged it.
Be better.
Yeah, I've never done that. You hit so much stuff with cars. I'm
Honestly,
like, okay.
You've hit so much stuff
Yeah,
with
I'm
cars.
okay with that. But you know what I mean? Like having that when we know that somebody loves us that much and they've committed to something, it's easier to just dump your junk on them, and walk away because you know that they're going to forgive you because that's been the consistency up to this point in that relationship. And then to learn new language to communicate is really hard.
It is. It's possible, though.
Yeah, you have to get in the Bible, and you have to be around people that can teach you, and you have to take instruction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you have to practice it.
Just
I
like
was
any
just listening
discipline.
to this guy who was talking about how he is he's a loud parent, meaning that he yells a lot. And it didn't register to him, but he found that he was very ineffective as a father. So he started whispering.
Oh, I seen that. Yeah.
So he would like tell them, like he would yell, like, get ready so that we can go. And they wouldn't move. And they would just
Ignore them, and then it would be a bigger blowout.
And so he started going, go get your shoes on.
Yeah, get right up in their ear. Hey, I need you to get your shoes on. We gotta
Yeah.
leave. So James 1:26 says, if anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Matthew 12:36 and 37, I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. James 3:2, for we all stumble in many ways, and if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his whole body. Like the tongue is the hardest member to control. It's like the toughest muscle in the body because it's your plowshare. It's how when I witness to people out in public, that's exactly how I cultivate the ground is my words go in and it breaks up that hard ground. So it's really important that you commit to this, and we're, I don't know, 14 years into ministry now. And now I think we're getting to a place of spiritual maturity where God's really turning up
I feel like it would only be like 9 years.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Right from day one. So I would say 14 years. I really struggled with committing though. So like I always wanted to be in a position where I had a way out. So maybe in the last 7 to 9 years, we've been in a full committal relationship with a church body, which even in that time, we've seen so many people come and go. So that also, that really affects your communication skills as well, because you have to learn to allow God to keep your heart soft so that you don't get callous towards people. Because everybody that comes in the door that you fully trust in and give your heart to, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to lend people our faith and our heart to disciple them and to grow them in their faith. And we can't chance our heart getting calloused, because even if the first 27 walk out with entitlement and no gratitude for what they've received or learned, the next one might be the next Billy Graham. The next one might be the next Reinhard Bonnke. And if you can keep your heart soft and you can teach them to do the same, you might speak into the life of somebody that God's going to use to touch millions upon millions of people.
Let me ask you this. What's the most romantic thing that the other person does?
What Joe does most romantically is when I say that I want something, like in passing,
And he makes
and then he makes it happen. So like if I say, oh, I'm craving sushi, the next thing you know, like he shows up with sushi. Or I'm like, man, I really need some new bras.
Carlos does that. Well, Carlos has never bought me a bra.
And then Joe comes home with bras.
That's so funny. If I say that I'm in the mood for something, well, first of all, we never go out to eat. So if I say I'm in the mood for sushi, Carlos is like, he
Done.
takes advantage of that.
Done and done.
Joe, what about you? What's the most romantic? Not sassy, but romantic.
Yeah.
Most romantic? Man, romance is not like a huge thing for me, but she does try to like plan these little getaways and special date times and stuff
She's
like
a
that.
planner.
I am a planner.
So, I mean,
She also puts a lot of thought into any gift that she gets you.
Yeah. Yep, she does.
So that's really nice.
But there's little things like that. where it's just a spur of the moment getaway for the night or something. And then that's always nice because then I have the ability to pick the restaurant without a fight.
Can I be honest about romance right now?
Absolutely.
I feel like it's overrated. Here's why. Because I think that most romance is superficial. It's very high, like surface level. Okay. So, and this isn't true for everybody. We have our own stuff here. So like some people are like your dad, for example, he is like super romantic. That's another level. Like most people don't reach that level. And for us though, a lot of the times when you think of romance, you think of some person swooping in with flowers, bringing you to a candlelight dinner with soft jazz music playing and like saying sweet nothings in your ear, feeding you their spaghetti off your fork. Okay. So like when I
Lady and the Tramp
Yeah.
moment.
we kiss at the middle of the noodle. Like when I think romance, that's what I think of, right?
That's what most people think of.
You know when I feel most romantic with her, a lot of times when like I do something or say something dumb, and then we have a moment where we're kind of laughing at each other, and it's like that moment, that brings more love and romance to me. Like when we go get together with another couple and we see how rigid they are with each other because they're like walking on eggshells around each other, can't say the wrong thing, and we're over here teasing each other, we're going to have a very romantic night when we leave. Like I can tell you that right now, and it's going to be filled probably with the lust of the flesh too, because that works for us.
Yeah, girl, get it.
We literally, we've been together almost 20 years.
That's so long.
And
It's
the
like
flame,
my whole life.
the flame is not out.
Right.
Our
It never was, though, physically.
our
through
relationship
the bad
started on a
times.
physical, awful. Like-
ours did start on a very nothing but it was
it's
nothing
just
but
sensual.
physical.
Yeah, and it was very self-serving to each other, and we were both very focused on making sure the other person was taken care of. So that has never been an issue. Like that was one thing that we've never kept from each other when we were angry either,
Right.
which we found out later is biblical.
Right.
That you don't withhold those things from your spouse because that could send them looking for it elsewhere. So we've never had an issue there. So like our romantic, so us being in love now, like
Now that we're in love.
yeah,
Oh, my God.
that means like
Heidi, I think you're going to have a good night tonight, to be honest.
when I have a
you
like
start spitting sweet nothings like that.
when I have like a specific shirt or a pair of socks that like I almost don't even want to put in the laundry because like I don't like not having that thing, and then I come up and it's like on the edge of the bed and ready to go, or like you know what I mean?
But what he responded with the funny and that has become romance to us. Like not the sweeping me off my feet and giving
There's
me
a place for
all
those
of these
things,
flowers and
We still
candlelit
have
dinners and
moments.
dressed fancy. It's like when you leave the fancy restaurant and you're like, man, I'm hungry. You want to go get a burger?
I've
The
straight up
realness.
Yes,
It's the
that is the
realness.
romance for me, where we just like sit and we just laugh and
yeah.
sometimes we eat or sometimes we watch a show together, or it's just like that connection that's
Yeah.
made.
yeah.
It's
We-
like that. It's like he's your best friend.
Yes.
We share our dreams. We literally not only share our dreams that we have when we sleep, like almost daily, but we have hopes and dreams. We have vision together. So like our conversations aren't always like about, oh, we need to get this or we need to do that. It's like if we do this, a good man leaves behind inheritance for his children and his grandchildren. So if we do this, we're going to set this in place and we're going to break off this generational thing of theft over our wealth of our family over here. And now that we have Christ in our life, every day is our jubilee. We don't have to wait 55 years for that or 50 years or whatever it was in the Old Testament. Right. So now we have a different way that we process and look at things. I love my wife and there's romantic moments, but I think it's more enjoyable for us to just have fun with it too. I mean, there's been times where we were trying to make a romantic dinner happen, and it was more fun to try and convince the waitress that we were on our first internet date and that we'd never met before, and just kind of playing around and having fun with the situation rather than like this. We hold each other to these standards that the other one may not really have like a definition of. So how can you live up to something that you have not seen or been raised around, right?
Yeah.
Like that's very strange to foreign for somebody to try and it doesn't feel natural. It'd be like if I sat here and tried to read a script for this. It would be the worst for the rest of you because it would not be natural to me.
I've been reading a script this whole time. I'm just kidding.
We're watching Max. I'm like, my ADD is on high alert.
I'm
watching
literally
Max play
looking at
Fortnite.
two full ADD people in front of me right now.
Watching
Isn't it fascinating?
my son and your nephew play Fortnite and just like run around with a big axe thing. in
It's
his
a
hand.
hammer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the kids here though.
It is.
I like it, and they're very well behaved. But
What is a romantic night for you?
my favorite in all the world. We like have nice lighting at home.
Yeah.
We're not watching TV or anything, but we have music playing. And I'm like reading,
Yeah.
and Carlos is, I don't know, doing his thing.
Making cheese.
He does make his own
Yeah, he
cheese.
makes cheese.
I don't want anybody to think that was a euphemism for something.
Yeah. I thought it was.
Yeah.
No, it's like actually
That could
literal
be.
cheese. But when you were saying what you were saying, Heidi, to me, it's like that's when you've been married long enough, because we've been married 11 years. The romance that you described is it is superficial, and there's a realness and a depth to getting past that. Do we save space in our life to have like a nice romantic dinner? Yeah, probably more than most, right? Where like you on a given day, you may not know. Like you could call Carlos and I and you're like, where are you? And we're like, we're in Wyoming.
Yeah.
We're in Minneapolis. We just pick up and leave town sometimes.
Yeah.
So we do have things like that as well. But that's my favorite is when we're just like relaxing and having a quiet day. Sometimes it's the afternoon, and like my favorite thing, you know what a morning dove sounds like?
Yeah.
A morning dove gives me like nostalgia for our childhood or something. And like we'll have the patio door open and the wind blowing through, and it's just like that really, it's deep peace and relaxation.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite type of day or evening.
I get it. I've had men and women talking to me about like, oh, if only I had what you guys have. And I'm like, we went through hell and like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe
hell.
you
yeah,
guys are-
we literally
Maybe
had to
those
like,
people are still in it. But
we had to almost die to get life, right? Mm-hmm. We had to go through like all the
I want to hear
valleys
Carlos's
and the
answer to this
shadows.
question too.
And then, but it's funny to like, people are attracted to what we have because we have this inseparable closeness now. But what that really looks like is the ability to laugh at each other, the ability to tease each other, the ability to,
You have cheese on the brain.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's like, for me, I come home and she's got hard-boiled eggs for me and they're deshelled.
Aww.
And then as long as I don't get a shell, I'm like, wow, this person cares for me.
Heidi, like, just randomly will, like, where she does, like, birthdays and things like that. And, like, you say Joe makes note of things, but you also make note of things. And if I say, like, I'm craving something or you know what my favorite food is, like, you'll make sure it's there for me.
Remember that one year I got you like bagels from New York or something?
Literally. Oh, my gosh.
Well, even I see
I still
people,
get emails from those.
Yeah.
I see people spiritually a lot of times too. they'll look at like pastors and leaders and stuff and be like, oh man, if only I could have that. If only I could have a man or a woman of God like that.
Can we just say though, pastors have this thing. This is church culture. Youth pastors especially, but pastors in general have this thing where they refer to their smoking hot wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
My smoking hot wife, woman of God.
Yeah. You kind of have to, though. The hard position of being married to somebody in ministry, there's always people that want to come in and have a relationship with your spouse. And if we're so busy in our life with our businesses and our job and our kids and ministry, like sometimes we don't get a chance. What did I say last night when you came to bed? I have not talked to you all day.
Good night. Yeah.
You went to sleep right away, and I was like, "You're just going to sleep. I haven't talked to you all day."
And what did I do?
And then you rubbed my back for 30 seconds. You fell asleep.
I tried. I gave you like a full 5 minutes where I tried my hardest to stay awake.
But
You know what, though?
sometimes
Heidi has a thing, man. If she's fallen asleep, good luck.
Yeah, she's out.
done. Game over.
That's so when you're married to somebody and you're both involved in ministry, and there's always this pulling. It's like our wedding day. Like I didn't see her all day.
What we looked forward to the most on our wedding day was like we looked forward to like ordering toppers at the end of the night.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Did you
too.
order toppers at the end of the night at your wedding?
Yeah.
So did we.
That's what we did. That's all. That you're
How
not
many
from Eau Claire if you don't.
Yeah, how many people in Wisconsin have ordered toppers
Yeah.
on their wedding night?
Oh,
Yeah, triple order topper
everybody
sticks
better
with ranch
have.
and nacho cheese.
Yeah, we even
Carlos
went to a
is
restaurant.
nodding. He's like, yeah.
We even
like,
went
I
to a
need that.
restaurant and then went back to the hotel because the restaurant was terrible.
And some guy hit on a bride.
Yeah, he was like so infatuated with your white dress.
He's like, oh, what are you guys all dressed up for?
I was like, oh,
Where
maybe
are you going?
Maybe I can get beat up by this young man. Like,
Yeah.
he was like in his 60s too. It was weird.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. So can we get Carlos's answer quick?
Yeah, what is something that's most romantic to you?
I don't like my voice, but
I do.
Welcome to my world.
so for me, it can be like a nice dinner where, for example, for New Year's,
Oh yeah.
we have like a steak, crab legs, the light was down,
Nice.
and having soft music. Like she says, she was reading all the time.
Go to bed early.
Yeah.
I think you get past this like surface level
Yep.
infatuation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Carlos and I don't use pet names. We never have. Like in my phone, I have Carlos as Carlos Santamaria. Heidi
His
has
government
Joe
name.
as like
My love.
yeah. And do you have her as Babe?
Beautiful
So-
Heidi girl. He used to call me beautiful Heidi girl all the time.
So this is something, if people know, it's like a if you know thing. But when you guys were in like the worst part of your relationship, you only called each other babe. And I saw a meme the other day that was like, you can tell how awful or chaotic. I mean, this is a generalization that may not be true, but it was like, you can tell how bad a relationship is by the volume in which, not volume as in like sound, but how often or how much the couple calls each other babe. Right? And
Yeah.
you guys, that's all you called each other when you were in like the worst part of your relationship, but you don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and the weird thing is like, I don't know. Like I've seen people like go from one significant other to the next, and they always have the same pet name.
Gross.
It's like always babe.
It is
To
funny
each
though.
his own. Some people do well with that stuff, and they've had a very, normal or like a
Healthy
pretty,
relationship. Yeah.
And that I can understand, but the majority of the people I meet, for some reason, God puts everybody in my path that's went through like trauma, tornadoes, and hurricanes of hurt. You know what I mean? So so everybody I meet, like they've come out of something. They can tell you about all the X's and all the O's and everything they did, and then they're bringing the baggage from those relationships to possibly somebody that's never dealt with any of that. So now they're being held accountable to the actions of people that are no longer a part of the situation. You know, it's like when we dealt with a thing with Maximus in a youth group, and there was some like flirting and stuff, and I'm like, you don't need to have a girlfriend right now just because your buddy's got girlfriends, because you are called to a very specific thing. You've already acknowledged it at your age that you're called to this thing in ministry. So you need to like run as fast as you can towards Jesus, and then look to your right or your left. And if there's somebody there keeping up, that's probably going to be the one. Mm-hmm. Or if there's somebody you're trying to catch up to or pass, that might be the one.
Right.
So he went through a thing where the person that was pursuing already had, you know, at such a young age, already had went through bad situations in relationships. Like, I can't imagine being like 14, 15 and already had like cheating or, you know, things like that go on in a relationship. Now I'm going forward into relationships in the future with that situation, you know, that hurt already happening in my life. So now how do I, at that age when my brain is still being developed and my spirit is still being developed, how do I navigate relationships without holding others to that kind of accountability? Like, you could do that to me. So now I'm going to look at everybody as a possible threat that they could do that to me. So when we meet people that are going through things, it really, you know, it makes you dig in and try and help them get to a place where like they're free of those things. Like, that's not something that has to be the rest of your life. And then your significant other that you're with now is not deserving of the punishment or the reaction. It's like when I got free from drugs and alcohol and pornography, because God supernaturally took mine, the case for Heidi wasn't the same. So she had like almost 2 years of learning to forgive, learning how to respect somebody that God was promoting that didn't deserve it. How do you do that? Well, you know what she did? She didn't tell her testimony because she didn't want to take away from anybody's respect for me, because she knew God was doing something. So
There was a lie in that, though, too, from the enemy that made you think that you didn't have one.
right. So
And God had to reveal it to you.
But she spent like 2 years learning how not to react to the trauma of the person that was. Like, when you live with somebody that's completely dependent on substance for 8 years or however long it was, you automatically have just like you have a whole list of emotional responses to everything. So like, she had to like learn to let God work to remove those things, so she's not responding to me and holding me accountable to those things that happened in that relationship anymore, you know? And that's like huge for people to learn, because a lot of times when we go into a relationship, we're treating that person based off of every other interaction we've had. And that's not fair to that person, because Jesus doesn't do it to us.
That's right.
So if we're a Christian and we're called, Jesus said, I leave you all with the ministry of reconciliation. The ministry of reconciliation is us coming in as an advocate to let them know that they're forgiven, because they don't necessarily believe it. They can't hear without a preacher. So we have to come in and preach that even though you don't love yourself right now, and you don't feel you're worthy of this love, and you don't feel you're worthy, your partner treats you well, but you still explode. Well, what is the issue here? You're holding them accountable to something somebody else did to you, and now God's given you this amazing person, and you're reacting in the old flesh, and you're literally not taking advantage of the thing you prayed for and the thing that God put in your path.
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships, in marriage in general, is that, so I had a really good piece of advice given to me not that long ago, within the last 10 years. And someone said, always assume benign intent.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do people bring in like emotional baggage and all of this stuff into relationships, but when your heart has been hurt, you've been betrayed, you've been lied to, you've been cheated on, that sort of thing, then you start to look for that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have been talked to in a nasty way, if you've been lied to, if people have hidden things from you, if you've been rejected, you almost start to project it onto the person that you're with, even though they have really good intentions. And because people in your past have been intentional about doing these really crappy things.
Yeah, selfishness.
You assume, there's an assumption made that now if someone forgets something or misplaces something or does something stupid, it's no longer, they don't ever get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, you
the
did
doubt.
that on purpose.
It's
You know
always
better.
you intentionally did that and continue to do that, and there's no grace given in those situations. And that's where you see people really fall apart in relationships. And it goes from a place of like really wanting to make things work to then there's just contempt, and you can't, it's harder to bounce back from that. It's not impossible. Like God can do so much, and he can mend the broken hearts, and he can mend those relationships and make them better than you ever thought possible. But it has to, each person has to, they have to take ownership of their part of things.
So when we were going through that piece, his mom actually is the one that spoke into my life a lot on that, because she said, you are kind of what we started off with. You're accountable for every word that comes out of your mouth. So God is not looking at this as, you are really justified there, Heidi. You had reason to talk back to him like that. Like he really did you wrong. God doesn't look at that. That's not even a thing. He's never going to be like, you were right. You were really wounded. So I give you free pass to talk back to him the way that you did because he hurt you first. That's not a God we serve. So she said, you are responsible for your reactions. So whatever comes out of your mouth is now what you get to stand in front of God for. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes on you, which taught me a lot, because every single time he hurt me, I would always just like gun back at him. But in my brain, you think I'm fine because he hurt me first. And so nobody's going to think that I'm the bad person here because I'm just sticking up for myself. Mm-hmm. I can't let people walk all over me. Like I have to stick up for myself. And that's like so opposite of the kingdom that It's insane. And so I really started to actually take what was being taught. So that's the thing with Christianity, with being a believer, with picking up your cross and following me, is we could sit and talk about scripture and talk about what Jesus did and talk about all these stories all day long. But if you don't actually pick up and apply some of this stuff to your own life, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to keep running that hamster wheel over and over and over again, running into the same walls. But I have to rock out Luke really quick because it talks about this. Luke 6:27. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who spitefully use you. To him who strikes you on one cheek, offer the other also, and from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who asks of you, and from him who takes away your goods, do not ask them back. And just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise. Verse 32. And this is the piece that's really good for tonight. But if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. Mm-hmm. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive back, what credit is that to you? For even sinners lend to sinners to receive much back. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, hoping for nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the unthankful and evil. Therefore be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. If you're only loving people that love you, you're completely missing the Gospels. You have to love those who are hard to love, because that's what God did. He literally died on that cross for you when you were still a sinner.
And
Well-
if you see people, Scripture says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you see people that are unlovable, they don't love themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be the one person that can pull them out of it, and it'll feel like they're taking, stealing. They're taking advantage of your hospitality and your niceness. But in all actuality, you'll be the one person that when they need help, that God will bring you to the forefront of their mind.
Yeah.
You know?
When someone is someone is mean and hateful to you, and you respond back to that in not a mean manner but only love, that blows their mind.
The Bible also says it's like heaping up coals of fire on their head. They don't know what
They
to do
can't
with
understand it. It's like
it will sometimes make them even more angry.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they will leave that with, why are you being nice to me when I was just super mean to you?
Right.
It's that whole thing where
disarming.
darkness can't comprehend the light.
Well, I was just listening to somebody talk about the whole story of the cross. What a lot of times people they lose the richness of that message, and it's like you're delivered from hell and you have eternal life and that's it.
Yeah.
And they don't look deeper. And that story, it addresses all of the deepest fears that attack intimacy in people. He was betrayed by one of his best friends for money.
Yeah.
He was attacked in the town that he was in, and he was innocent.
He was denied by his probably best friend Peter
Right.
3 times.
They traded him for a prisoner that they knew was guilty.
Right.
And they knew that he wasn't.
Yep.
There's just so much in it that addresses fear of betrayal, fear of rejection.
Yep.
There's just like so many things that they listed that like it's just the worst fears that people have about relationships. And you look upon that and you don't have to be afraid of rejection and abandonment and all of these things that attack your ability to have an intimate relationship with your spouse, your partner, if you have one, or to seek it out if that's your desire and your call is to be married. Because by the way, you don't have to be.
Right.
But there's so much in that if you look to him and you look deep enough, you see the freedom that comes in the end and the triumph that comes in the end, right? But it's so much deeper than just John 3:16.
Yeah.
And I think that's our goal ever for us, is to get people to understand the richness and the depth
Absolutely.
that's there.
Well, even after all of that betrayal and all of that and rejection, even on that cross, he literally says, forgive them.
When you said trade off for Jesus Barabbas, right? So when you look at that, when Heidi was going into her prayer closet, so we had the movie War Room in our life before that movie was ever a thought.
Right.
Like she
you
was literally
walked
doing
it
that,
out,
right?
yeah.
So she didn't trade off me for Barabbas by going and talking to her sister and her mother and saying, this guy's such a scumbag, and then getting before her pastor and be like, oh, I just want him to be this man of God. She went straight to man of God, man of God, man of God. She didn't include others, right? So she made the trade-off for what she wanted to see. And in doing that, what happened is God worked. And none of this was just for my salvation. There is a work and a walk we have on this earth. And that's what we need that understanding for. Because there is so many others that need the grace and the mercy and the empowerment to be able to live the whole rest of their life being effective for the kingdom of heaven, for their family, for their children's children. It's so much deeper than just, even when people talk about inheritance, and what we get it, like it's not for in eternity. Sure, you get a palace or many mansions. You get a mansion in eternity, and you get to go into the New Jerusalem. But the the idea of being able to walk in God's economy here is so much more important, because then you're not just another beat down Christian that's waiting for an escape clause of like Jesus to come back and you get siphoned out of here and you don't have to deal with stuff anymore.
Come on.
Like, that's not where we want to be. So with that way of intercession and in the stance that she took in the Word of God to pray for what she wanted to see, what she felt God created in me, that shifted things. I'm not here just for me and my little family. Like,
no one is.
right.
Yeah.
So now I have, my heart's bigger than that. My vision's bigger than that. You don't want me in offense. You want me, if I'm not on the Holy Spirit, like on with the Holy Spirit, you don't want me.
No.
My words are not right. My actions are selfish. So I need to be filled with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And even me, where I'm at, filled with the Holy Spirit and praying in the Spirit and worshiping, I still have days where I'm not perfect. We all fall. It says we all fall. And it's left in a context of
Falls short.
Yeah, and it's left. It's not like you fell once. It's continuous. We all fall short of the glory every day.
Can I ask a question?
Every day.
I'm curious as to what you guys think. It's a common misstep in the church. I feel like we mentioned romance, right? Do you think it's fair to say that because the world has, we'll say, commandeered, perverted love, and no, but like having a physically intimate relationship, it's like nobody talks about that in the church. They dang well should.
When I think people have skeletons in the closet, they've partnered with shame.
But they need to break off that partnership.
Absolutely.
And we need to be able to, I feel like here's what I'm getting at. I think that there are people, because I've had to correct this myself, where if the Holy Spirit's involved, they can't have those two things like in the same thought.
Nope.
Because one's dirty.
Yep.
You should be able to look at your husband and see a sexy man of God.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Right? And like vice versa.
It
And
drives
romance.
me nuts when she's preaching. Like when she's up there
Oh my God.
preaching, I'm like, man,
You're
God,
like
you
the
gave me a
first
good-
person to like the reels in the videos that we make. Especially if it's Heidi's.
I love seeing her step out, and then when an anointing hits her, it gets me as attracted to her as when there was life in her. When she was pregnant, couldn't keep my hands off her. And like God put that in me, that I'm attracted to somebody that's hosting a spirit. Does it always have like a physical aspect? No, because I have friends that are anointed ministers that I'm completely attracted to being around them. I can't run into them without hugging them because I'm attracted to being where God is. I'm attracted to being a part of what God's doing. I'm attracted to seeing others function well with the gift of the Holy Spirit to reach others. I'm attracted to that. When I have my wife, though, who's anointed and it's hitting, it's slapping, God's given her a right now rhema word, and I'm watching people get touched, I'm like, wow. Like,
You're about to ask me to take the kids home after
this
church.
is who I get to this is who I get to be around. This is who I get to spend the rest of my life with. I would rather be intimate on a physical level with my wife, knowing that she's pure and holy and seeking righteousness, than knowing that there's skeletons in the closet, that there's weird perversions there.
Come on.
So for me, that's like a huge thing for me.
And to be clear, you can be spicy.
Yeah.
You can be spicy.
Oh, yeah.
Without
To be
being
weird.
Oh yeah, just
perverted.
because you're a Christian and if you have a license, you don't got to be no prude.
Don't act like you don't have a physical relationship. And if you don't have a physical relationship
Get
with your
one.
spouse, that's
Ask for
not
God to
biblical
restore
either.
It. Yeah, ask for God to restore
That is something God created for us, one, to go and reprocreate, and then two, to have an enjoyment and a covenant that is only between us and our
Do you guys
spouse.
remember this story? Mom and Dad used to tell this story. And by the way, Joe and Heidi's family is a little bit more conservative.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
it comes
We don't
to
talk
physical
about sex in my
relationships.
Your dad did.
He would make like jokes or innuendo,
Not like
and
full
like
conversations
you
about
know, our parents, they were something.
They weren't like perverted, but they
No.
were like
They're real.
you guys
still
go
are.
You guys
real
go
into
down
each
to
other.
the beach and go swimming.
Take your sister to the mall.
Go do something.
Yep.
Because they, you know,
Like,
Dad
we
drove over the
knew.
road too,
Yeah.
so he needed to have that.
They
kind
would
of
go in
time
their
with
room
him.
and lock the door, and we just knew.
Yeah,
like,
but you knew not to knock.
do not knock.
Like I didn't know exactly what they're doing, didn't care.
Yeah,
But we knew not to knock. And they're smart enough to put good food out in the kitchen. We didn't need to go near that part of the house.
we had satellite.
Yeah, we had a satellite dish. Like that thing was like 10 foot by 10 foot.
It was so big.
Yep. Yeah, we were like some of the only people in the neighborhood that had that. It was pretty rad.
But it's something that's important to be talked about. I do
Dad
think
built us a baseball diamond
Yeah, he
with
did.
like the whole fence in the back and like the benches for the
a
dugouts.
dugout.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like they gave us stuff to do.
We had plenty to do outside.
2 barns and a milk house
Yeah.
that you couldn't get in.
So it was very normal for us to be raised around the idea that you have a spicy physical relationship with your spouse. So Dad would tell this story of a pastor and his wife. Do you remember this?
I don't
And they
know.
were trying to spice things up a little bit.
I'm so scared for what I'm about to hear.
Don't be. The kids are here. I'm not going to say anything crazy. But they were incorporating outfits.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the pastor, it was either the pastor friend or his wife. I can't remember which one. There was a point at which they got up on their dresser. Right? And they were like a well-known pastor in the town. And they fell through
Oh no.
and like broke their leg.
Oh no.
And they were in their outfits.
Oh no.
And they had to call the paramedics to help. And like, God bless them, because, you know, talk about stepping out in faith in your relationship. But I just think that's so funny.
God gave me such a great imagination that like those types of things for me is like, why do we want to go through all the time putting something on just to take it off?
Right.
I could do that with my regular clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. You like that the Real King sweatshirt there, baby?
Yeah.
Let me slowly try to take this off over my head while my t-shirt underneath slides up at the
Let
same
me squeeze
time.
you out of those skinny jeans.
I was a janitor at one point, so don't show up to me in a maid costume because that
No.
just reminds me of work.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna come in here with your dirty bathroom.
Yeah, I
hands?
love that you just told people not to show up to you in a maid costume.
Yeah. That was
Please
for my wife.
don't.
That was for my wife.
Rule of thumb.
But
don't show
that's
up in a
like
maid
I don't know.
costume. I think
to
to each his own, man.
different
Don't
strokes
yuck
for
someone
different
else's
folks.
yum. Okay.
Yeah, and if that's something you and you can
yeah.
do that, you go for it. But in the meantime,
I think this might be one of the first times this year that we've made Joe blush.
yep, that's hard to do.
But it was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's so different for everybody too, because people, they really struggle with transparency. I do make jokes sometimes when we're with other couples, especially church couples, about my attraction to my spouse, and it's always weird for me when people get uncomfortable. I never do it with like in a distasteful manner.
Right.
It's always something that's edifying to her, and people should be very excited that God has put it on somebody's heart to be with them and only them. That's pretty darn special that you have that, and
That's pretty darn neat.
yeah,
That's neat.
That's pretty neat.
That's neat.
That's pretty special that you have somebody that
neat.
would say, I'm going to devote the rest of my existence and my abilities to be intimate with somebody with just you, and that's,
Well, people get so caught up on things. Like women a lot of times will get caught up on the fact, like if their husband is outwardly affectionate in front of other people.
yeah.
Girl, you got to let it go. And you got to let go of giving this perception to other people. I think social media feeds into that, where you see these people that are acting out their affection, quote, affection for one another. And it's like a couple's Instagram account. And you're like, I wish my husband would laugh with me like that. And I wish my husband would. Well, they're being sponsored.
Yep.
So chill out.
Yep.
I'm sure I could get Carlos to do lots of things if, Airbnb was sponsoring us for $50,000 a post.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would give me a smooch too. But like, the point is like, you have to be okay with having that as it comes, and it allows space for it in your real life, and your affection for your spouse shouldn't be performative, and it shouldn't be for the benefit of other people. And I feel like where people can take a big misstep is where when they are affectionate, then they say, see, why can't you do that? And they weaponize it.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
You don't want to.
Well, also,
Yeah.
you fell in love at some point. There was something there at some point. So if you're dry, figure out what that spark was then, and kind of reflect. Maybe you did something. Maybe you could do something to bring that spark back. Like, you can also do your homework on your spouse too. Figure out his likes. Figure out his dislikes. Figure out what like makes him tick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you have people that aren't affectionate, there's so many things. Like if their dad wasn't, or if a parent wasn't around, or if they were raised around a grandparent that was, raised in a different time that was more harsh.
But for me, when you say like, what's the most romantic time? I mean, that doesn't sound very saucy to some people that I'm saying I like just to be.
That's more of figure out the likes and dislikes of each other. That is, that's saucy to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, figure that piece out.
Well, and invite God into stuff. You never know what somebody's got internally. If they had been exposed to perversion or pornography or something early on in life, and they associate now everything with like a dirtiness or a perversion. So get to a place where you're so transparent with each other, where that's a stronghold.
Yeah.
Our weapons are mighty for the
Pulling down strongholds.
right. So you pull those strongholds down, and now that becomes a place where you conquered together.
Absolutely. So me and Joe, we have had those uncomfortable, weird conversations about that department in our life and about things that we like and things that we don't like. And it's like, if you want to feel vulnerable,
There you go.
have that conversation with each other.
If I even have a dream where there's things that happen in it, or like now where I am spiritually, if I have a dream with intimacy in it like that, especially if it's something that's not my wife, I go on the defense because I know that that's a spiritual attack against my character. And I am not going to partner in covenant with something in a dream that nobody knows about and have a deep, dirty, hidden secret. So I wake up and I expose that to my wife. And I'm like, hey, this thing tried to happen in my dream last night. I woke up from it. I don't like it. I repented of it. But
And you
pray
don't
with
hold
me
him
over it.
accountable for that.
No.
No,
Which
she's gotten
some
better with
people
that.
would.
At
She
first
used to.
I did.
Oh my God, you dream cheated on
at
me.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
and
would like almost punch me before, but now we know.
Now we know. And I'm like, no, that's a dirty, evil, demonic spirit, and we don't allow that. Get out.
Because it can attack in different ways. It can attack you
Yeah.
and have that little thing that you have, hidden.
Well, and
it can attack when you expose it.
Yep.
It's like, okay, I lost here, but I'm still going to try to take ground in their relationship by making her upset.
And it doesn't happen often, but there's been times where things have happened like that, and I'll deny myself intimacy for like a day or so until I feel like I got like freedom
Release
in that
through
area.
that.
Yeah.
And God talks to us, and he'll usually let me know, if it was like a spiritual attack that was strategic in a certain area or what, so that I can walk in freedom from those things. Because the last thing I need is her to not be nourished in an area because I feel shame somewhere that has nothing to do with real life.
Right.
And people can't see us, but the kids are here. They're not earmuffed. I think that's a very important lesson that when we grew up, and I went to youth group more than you two did for years. And I went to youth conferences and things like that. And people did not address intimacy, and what healthy intimacy within a marriage looks like with young people.
Yeah. You have something that...
And if you don't want your kids to Google it
Right.
and see what's on the internet, and guess what, you don't,
Right.
you need to discuss some of these things with them so that they understand, or they're going to look for information from a different source.
Especially when they hit those puberty ages.
Yeah.
Well, and we all know that that's the most vulnerable situation we can be in.
And I feel like a lot of times it's mishandled within youth because it's just pounded on abstinence, of course, right? Which I agree with.
Yep.
But there's a strong association always with shame. And they go into marriage and like they go into life with that. And then it's always attached, right?
Yeah.
And like it's just, I think, a lot of times mishandled. It's important for your kids to understand that you have a physical relationship, and you two, it's God first, then your spouse, then your kids, which is really important.
Absolutely it is.
And I think that that's commonly, once people have kids,
Yeah.
it can get all jumbled up, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And then you lose that intimacy with your partner
Right.
because life happens and you're putting the kids first.
Yep.
And the husband, your husband or wife no longer gets what they want for dinner. You're not thinking of how to make them happy today, but you're thinking of what you're going to do for the kids, and your whole life becomes about the kids.
Yeah.
And you guys have been very intentional in raising your kids to make sure that you have, just like our parents did, time for one another. And your kids know that. And I think that's just very important.
I seen a study a long time ago. I can't find it now. I just found one, but it was a little weaker. But it talked about for a man to maintain optimum social, mental, physical, spiritual wellness, they needed so many forms of physical touch a day, which that interaction where it's a touch on the leg, a pat on the hand, it's not all, sexual or whatever, but it's just physical contact. It's a form of affirmation,
Yeah.
Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. So Christ was willing to die for the church. He was willing to take sin upon himself and be slain as the lamb on the cross and shed that blood so that we could have atonement and be reconciled unto the Father, and that we would have life and life eternal and healing and all these things, right? Wives, respect your husbands.
Yeah.
So a form of respect or affirmation is a lot of times is just that, that you're there. Like a husband doesn't necessarily need to
Like,
be
I
like,
got
oh,
you."
you're so handsome and beautiful, as you're a beautiful man. Like, that's weird to me. But if you
I think it's weird to me.
if you come up and you poke me and you have fun with me and you're poking me and you're constantly pawing at me and touching at me and giving me physical contact, and when I'm in a room full of people, I've always been an entertainer or somebody that would influence people, and I would always leave a room with 50 people feeling like I just spent the whole night alone. But if you are my spouse and you make your way to me continuously and you're constantly letting me know you're right there, for me, that's huge for my social wellness and my mental
Right.
wellness. That's huge. I'm born again. I'm a new creation, but I still have to maintain my mental wellness. Because,
Did we lose the feminists?
but either way,
Here's the thing. I wouldn't consider neither Heidi nor myself just one of these barefoot pregnant. And by the way, that's fine
no,
too.
You're both professionals.
But we're assertive. We are in a partnership with our husbands.
You're both leaders in your careers.
Yeah,
You're
our
both
our
educated.
husbands consider what we say when we say
I
respect
can't
your
do
husbands.
anything without looking at her schedule she makes me.
I think for me, when it says like respect your husband, it's you need to be there like ride or die. What's something that you guys intentionally do for one another that you know is just going to light that spark in the other person?
I tease him.
Yeah.
He likes that.
My love language is ridicule.
Backhanded compliments.
Yeah.
Those are the winners.
Distance
They are
and
key.
ridicule get me all fired up.
But no, when I'm playful with him,
Yeah.
that he enjoys that.
I don't know. I'm kind of a caveman in those areas. So I, if
He's
I
gonna bonk me over the head and drag me to his cave.
yeah, no. if I'm feeling like like we've been missing out in those areas, I do get intentional. I'm not like over here wearing a loincloth and carrying a club. Captain Caveman.
Joe.
Captain Caveman. You remember that guy?
I can't believe he's...
I get physical and kind of flirtatious and touchy-feely when it's needed.
Yeah.
We have certain places we like to go to. Like we have very specific places, and we've always had that. We've had places where we like to go and get away and just have time together and try to minister to each other in every need. We also have always been good about going places that'll spiritually feed us. Because I feel like when we're really well spiritually fed, a lot of the other things fall in line. So it really, if you're in a love relationship with God, then you can love your significant other. And then when you love your significant other, you're more in tune to their physical and social needs, and the intimacy and all that fun stuff. So it's, yeah.
For Carlos and I think it's just prioritization of one another. And we kind of talked about this in our last episode, but like I get a lot of requests for help, and people always want to do something or have something going on. And I know that it means a lot to him if I make sure that he's a priority, and I take him into consideration.
So
and
you bonk him on the head and
drag him back to my cave. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
There was this video, and this little kid was like, "I found whipped cream in Mom's bedroom."
He's like,
And they were like, "Why
what
do you think
she
you-"
had there?
Yeah.
She must have been hungry.
Maybe she had a banana split or something. I don't know. I ate the whole can.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this Valentine's Day special. If you made it to the end, can you go to our Instagram and comment the word love on our latest post? We would love to connect with you there. You can find us by searching at The Real King Podcast. That's at The Real King Podcast. Can't wait to have you tune in next time.